out on the balcony working tonight, so I'm probably going to get bit to shit by mosquitoes. But I thought I'd brave it. It's a really gorgeous night. It's a lot nicer here now, in terms of, you know, being able to be outside more because it's cooled down a bit. So I thought I'd come outside, bring the office outdoors. I'll probably just be one big mosquito bite tomorrow. But it was worth it. It was worth it. I've had an amazing evening with clients and talking to awesome women, and really looking forward to this tonight. Really looking forward to it because it's starting to get a bit juicy now. We're heading into the strategy. Let me know who's there as you're getting logged in. It's nice to know who's listening. And just as you guys are all getting in, I wanted to draw your attention to a post that I saw this morning. And some of you might have seen it. It's from like Burger King. I don't know if it's actually from Burger King, it might be, but it's got the Burger King logo on, and it says at the top, go to McDonald's. And then it goes on to say how they never thought they'd hear themselves promoting other fast food or any other big chain restaurant to their audience, but actually it's really important that we're supporting big businesses as well as small businesses. Hey Annette, who else is there? Say hey. And do you know what? I couldn't agree more. James and I were having a conversation about this. Evening, Rachel. And small businesses are important, really important. Hey, Cecily, hope I'm saying that right. Cecily, hope I'm saying that right, sorry. But hey, good evening. You know, big businesses are just as important as small businesses. Let's not demonise them in times of uncertainty. Hey, Nina, because the bigger they are, the harder they fall. The greater the impact that's felt when they do. Thousands of people lose their jobs if big companies disappear. When you think about McDonald's, I mean, what would life be like without a Big Mac? You know? But just something to think about. Let's not demonise big businesses. Yes, we've got to support our local businesses too, but this is about, you know, especially those of you that are in England. Who's in England? Who's logged in from the UK tonight? Just type UK if you're in the UK. I'd be interested to see. You guys have just had news about another 1 month lockdown, and it can feel really doom and gloom, and the media can get in your head, and you've been sat listening to Boris Johnson, and it's really hard to shake it off. But just remember what I said to you guys back in March, and I proved it right when I said, do not pull back. The coronavirus doesn't cause recessions. People cause recessions by pulling back and preparing for winter and not forging forward with plans and being brave and recognising the opportunities that are at our hands. You know, the women that I started working with in March are the ones that have got six-figure businesses now. They're the ones that are doing the 10k months, 20k months, that have been able to support their family, that turned the corona coaster into the best thing that ever happened to them. So do not lose sight of that. We always knew there was going to be a second wave. It's not news. And we can smile through it, and we can do something productive with it. Lots of you from the UK this evening. Okay, so let's dive in to episode 4 of the series. I was going to say how many parts there is, but I'm not entirely sure. 5 years ago I was living in a caravan. Today I'm a millionaire. And what steps did I take? And as I said, we're starting to get juicy now. It's going to get juicy. What do I mean by that? I've been really torn. Hey, Carrie. Good evening. I've been really torn with what I share over the next few weeks and how much I share. And I'm going to be honest with you about that now. I'm going to let you in to the battle that I had. Because we're moving in now to some quite serious struggles that I had. I'm going to touch on some of them this week and also next week, and some people in my life that contributed to some of these challenges and struggles. When I committed to doing this series, I committed to being really honest with you. I committed to sharing everything, no holes barred. I committed to sharing with you the shit as well as the success, the times that were really tough, the mistakes I made and the lessons that I had to learn. And I promised I'd do that really authentically, but as I was going through my journal and preparing for the next few weeks, some things were coming up that was really making me like, go back there and remember some of these times and some of these people that caused some of that pain. And I became torn because I thought, well, how much of this do I share with you? Because where other people are concerned, it's not just about me, is it? And I had to have some tough conversations with myself and with James and with God about, what do I share? Do I hold back? I would never share names anyway. I just wouldn't do that. I already know that that's not the right way to go. I don't need to ask that. I would never divulge that sort of information or make it obvious who I was talking about in any situation. But how do I share honestly with you if I can't bring people into this? Because people are some of our biggest challenges as business owners. Other people's opinions, other people's actions, people problems are one of our biggest problems as businesses, right? So of course I've had my fair share of people problems, and the way people have sometimes acted and treated me in the process of getting to where we are today, they've been some of my toughest challenges, some of the challenges that have brought me to my knees and really hurt me deeply. And how can I not share those things with you? And because my initial thought was, although I'd never share names with you, if these people watch it, they might be hurt by it. Hurt by seeing it through my perspective, hurt by the way I tell the story, I don't know. So I very nearly missed out a good chunk of some of the things I was going to share with you because I thought, oh, it doesn't feel right to involve other people. But then I realised that that wouldn't be the right thing to do either. And it's the intention behind it. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because you might feel torn sometimes sharing some of your story because it concerns other people. In fact, give us a show of hands. Anybody who's ever felt torn in sharing their story, whether it be the story that led you to do what you do, maybe the story that's led to who you are today. And if you've ever thought, oh, maybe I can't say anything because I might upset someone or I might hurt someone or they might not receive it very well. As I was faced with that whilst putting this together, and I realised it's about intention. It's your intention that counts. My intention with what I'm going to share with you over the coming weeks is not to put someone else down. It's not to make someone wrong and me right. It's not to judge or point at someone else's behaviour. It's not to make anyone feel shit. My only intention is to help people that might be going through similar or the same. And therefore these stories have to be told fully. And I can't hold back in that. So there's some of that coming along with strategy. So today is all about how a chance encounter was the catalyst to me doing my first million. Really quickly as well. From standing still in 1 year. And you might be thinking, well, how are you standing still at this point? Because you're already building a business. I was, but things really changed at this point in the story. So I'm going to share that with you. So at this point in the story, I'd been in Lanzarote for about a year, maybe 18 months. It's difficult to tell because I don't always bloody write dates in my journal, which I'm going to start doing from now. But at the time, I wasn't always writing dates. So I reckon it was about a year, 18 months at this point in the story. And I'd also been to Arizona for a few months as well and lived in Arizona as well. Why? Because I recognise that a change of environment is really good for me. And one of the reasons for that, which is a key lesson in this part of the story, is that if you're an entrepreneur at heart, even if you don't think you're an entrepreneur, a lot of women I work with don't class themselves as entrepreneurs. They don't call themselves entrepreneurs or business women because they don't feel like that. They might have just been jobs still and just starting out. But if you're an entrepreneur at heart and you feel called to build a business and you can't settle being an employee and living a mediocre life, I'm not trying to say that everybody that lives, that's an employee is mediocre, but if you want extraordinary achievement through business, you're probably an entrepreneur at heart, even if you don't feel like one. And one of the key traits is that we are driven by variety. We find it difficult when things stay the same too much. Who can relate to that? Give me a hell yes if you know that you get bored easy and you start things but you're not always amazing at finish them because you get distracted and you want to do something else instead. That's who we are. That can be our superpower. It also has as a flip side, right? And as a business owner, you can start to, if you get bored in the strategy and the building of the business, you can want to change things. Like, oh, I'll just tweak my website. I'll tweak my messaging. I'll change my ideal client and my offer and put a new course together, because you love the creation stage, right? And when things stay the same and they get a bit mundane and routine kicks in, we start to feel a bit, you know, a lot of you can relate. I'm like that. So I've had to learn to channel it into the right things. Can't keep changing my business every time I get bored, because you just go round in circles. You have to stick to things long enough to see them in their full potential. Note to self, stick to things long enough to see them in their full potential. So I've had to channel my need for variety into other things. How many hair colours have I had? How many of you have been following me for long enough? Let me know in the comments. How many of you have been following for long enough to know how many hair colours I've had over the last few years? Got to change my hair. I've got 4 dogs, because I'd be like, time for a new fur baby, because things have got a bit normal. And changing location. It's one of the reasons I travel so much. So I'd travelled a little bit as well whilst we were living in Lanzarote. Things had started to get really good. Money-wise, we'd released a lot of pressure. We were now earning around that 6-figure mark. We'd got money left over. We were saving a lot of money as well. So I went to Arizona for a bit. Things were good. Things were really good. The pressure had been lifted. Now, at this point in the story, I should draw your attention to the fact that I was a network marketer. So I was affiliated with a company. You've moved a lot. Yeah, that's another thing I used to like doing. It's funny, actually, because when this house was built and finished, I was thinking, what should we do now? Like, what should we build another one? It's terrible. It's a disease. You have to channel it into the right place, or else it's very destructive. Anyway, so I was in network marketing. And although I felt good financially, I still felt really vulnerable. If you're in network marketing, just comment network marketing so I know who is, or maybe if you have been, because you might be able to relate to this. The reason I felt vulnerable is because it's an incredible opportunity. It's an incredible industry. I'm a big fan of it. And absolute kudos to anybody who's in it. It's not easy. But there's parts of it that are out of your control. So, you know, you can be great at building a team, but you can't make them do any work. It's not your product. There's a few things that mean it, you know, your wealth is a little bit out of your control. There's a lot of things you can control and influence, some things you can't, and that's okay for the most part. But there's a few network marketers on the call. I'd reached a point in my journey where I was earning a good income and got a good life, but I knew, because I'd been studying money and wealth, not just network marketing, and as you guys know from previous episodes, social media marketing, James and I were early adopters of that. We'd been using the internet to market businesses previously. So alongside studying social media marketing, I've been studying money intensely, because somebody had said at a seminar, if you want to be wealthy, you've got to study money. And it made perfect sense to me. It was a revelation. I was like, oh my God, they're absolutely right. So I've been doing that. And I knew that the average millionaire had 7 income streams. And as much as I had income streams outside of network marketing, they were very, very small, and they didn't make me feel safe. And I was conscious that I had what felt like all my eggs in one basket, and it wasn't smart. Of course, nobody in my company was saying that, because they want you to focus on one thing, and I understand that too. But I was starting to feel like I needed more stability. And a few things happened in the company. It's a great company, it's a great industry, but a few things happened that highlighted that. A few changes in products, a few changes in the structure of the business that really affected people's incomes. And I started to think, okay, I love this, but I need more than this, as well as this. Not to step away from, but I need more. And I'd been training as a coach. I'd been studying a few different things to make me a better leader, really. It was never with the intention of becoming a coach. It was all to make me a better network marketing leader. So I'd studied neuro-linguistic programming. I'd studied Tony Robbins' strategic intervention, and I'd invested heavily in being a better leader. And I'd started to think, maybe there's more I could do with that, because people were reaching out to me and asking me for help and they weren't in network marketing and they didn't want to be network marketers. So I couldn't help them in a professional capacity really at that point because I had nothing to offer them. But it had planted a seed in terms of there's a lot of people I can help that don't want to be network marketers, and my hands are tied. I can't help them at the minute because I don't have anything to offer them. Maybe that's what I can do next. So all these things were starting to happen. The two things I'd got really good at this point was, as I mentioned before, building an online business through social media marketing, because that's where I put all my focus, and money. Now I'd saved at this point, and this is a big achievement for me, guys. Like, I was over the moon with this, and you know where we'd come from. Not got a pot to piss in, moved out of our house to live in a caravan because I hadn't got money to invest in to go to a seminar even. And we'd saved 80 grand at this point. We'd got £80,000 in the bank. And I was fucking proud of that. I was really proud of that. And I'd got a mentor at the time, somebody I still am so grateful for. He was more of a network marketing mentor. And he always helped and he always took me under his wing. And I love the guy. And I told him, I said, I've saved 80 grand. And he was like, oh my God, that's amazing. He was so happy for me. But I said to him, look, I've got this knowledge that I want to share with people, not just about how to make money, that's one part, but the other is how to make it work for you when you've got it, how to keep it accumulated, you know, how to make your money make more money rather than you have to be the one making money all the time, because money does make money, but only if we put it to work. And I'd been doing that, I'd been learning about that, I'd been expanding my knowledge so that I never ended up back where I was before, because that was the thing that frightened me the most. And the key lesson here is change can happen really fast. To go from 0 to 6-figure income with 80 grand in the bank, which is what I call my warrior line. So the bit of money that I never dip below. And this is a real top tip for you. You know, have an amount that is always in your bank that it's like your abundance line. Just makes you feel good because you don't get to 0. When James and I first started doing this, our abundance line or our warrior line was £100 because that's all we had. You know, every bit was going into just surviving. So to keep £100 in the bank account just made us feel good that we'd got that bit of a warrior line. And then it went to 1,000, then it went to 10,000. And then at this point, quite quickly, it was at 80,000. We'd saved, and not just saved as in like it's there for a rainy day, but that's our warrior line. We don't go below that now. That's our new normal. That's always there. Investment and living, and that was extra to that. The warrior line had gone to 80. I remember sharing with you guys, I think it was a couple of years ago now, that we'd moved our warrior line to £250,000, and that was now the new normal. And warrior line is a good goal to have for yourself. You know, every year, what's my warrior line going to be this year? Because it's your safety net. You know, it's your peace of mind. So even when we bought houses and all of that, our warrior line stayed strong, because that's what it is. It doesn't move. Right. So around this time, all these things were running around in my head, and they frightened me a little bit, because I was thinking about another income stream. I was thinking that I'd got more to offer people that weren't in network marketing. I was thinking that I needed to be smart and feel stable and secure, and I could feel a shift happening. I could feel change happening. And I'll be honest, that change terrified me, because I was finally feeling comfortable. I'm like, oh, why have we got to change things now? But you know, when you just feel that shift. I mentioned last week I'd got good at listening to my intuition. I could feel something was coming. I was reading a book at this point, and I'm going to share what the book was with you, because it was something that was a bit of a catalyst alongside the chance encounter I'm going to tell you about now. The book was called Light is the New Black, and it's by a woman called Rebecca Campbell. I was reading the book, and it was all about finding your purpose, your calling, your mission, the thing that feels bigger than you. And I was reading it, and I was thinking, oh God, oh God, oh God. Network marketing's not mine. It's not. It was a stepping stone, but it's not the final destination. And I felt it on every level, and I just could have screamed. I was terrified of that feeling. I kept ignoring it, thinking, no, of course it is. I just need to do it a bit differently so it lights me up more, and trying to convince myself that it was okay to stay the same. That's what we do, don't we? But the reality was, purpose was knocking. There was something bigger. There was more people that needed to be helped. There was more work I needed to do that was more meaningful. And for a lot of people, network marketing is it, and that's okay. But I knew it wasn't for me, and I'd got to be bold and brave and do something different. And weirdly, I just kind of offered it up and went, like, just show me the way then. If I'm meant to do something else, if I'm meant to do something more, then show me the way. And I got a phone call. It was actually a message from a coach who didn't live in Lanzarote. It wasn't living in Europe at the time. She was living in the US. She was a success coach, helping women in business to set up and scale online businesses, mainly through like courses and programs. And she was a friend of a friend. I didn't know her very well, but she sent me a message saying, do you want to go for dinner? I'm in Lanzarote, I'm on the island. Would you like to meet up and have dinner? And I thought, yeah, amazing, why not? I never for 1 minute thought of anything on a professional capacity coming from that dinner. I just thought she'd be a fascinating person to be around. She'd just written a book that was being published by Hay House, so she'd achieved a lot, and I just love being around people like that because they're fascinating, and they, you know, you got to get around people that challenge you, right? And I knew that she'd be a good person to be around, so that's the only reason I went for the meal. And James and I went, and we were chatting, and she was asking me questions, and as being a coach, you just do it naturally. You can't help it. You dig in, and you make people realise things just by having a conversation with them. And that's exactly what she did to me that day. She said to me, so what's next for you? And I said, wow, it's funny you should say that. And I was telling her about all these thoughts I was having and all these lessons and these things that I'd achieved when it come to money and making more of it online, but also keeping hold of it, and how I was watching people go broke. Even when they were earning more, they were still spending more, and they didn't know what to do with money and all this stuff. And she was like, it's amazing. So many people need this. So what's stopping you? 3 words. Changed everything. What's stopping you? And I didn't have an answer. I didn't have a good enough answer. Nothing was stopping me from doing it. I knew how to market something and sell it online. Just rather than doing it for a network marketing company, I'd be doing it for me. I'd be marketing something that, although I was passionate about network marketing, I would be marketing something that I was even more passionate about, that was my zone of genius. It wasn't compromising on any level. It felt exciting. There was nothing stopping me. And that just one question blew my mind, and I just looked at her for what felt like ages, and I was like, I don't know. And it lit a fire in me. And the next morning I was up at about 5 a.m, 6 o'clock in the morning. I never get up that early. But I just couldn't sleep. I was so excited, and I was brainstorming, and I messaged her and I said, I'm doing this. I'm going to set up 2 offers. I'm going to have an online course, like a self-study course about money and about how to make more and keep more, because they're the 2 things that are the most important thing when it comes to building wealth. And I'm going to call it the Women's Wealth Academy. That was what it was called. And then I'm going to also work one-to-one with some women. And I voice messaged this to her. I was like, I'm going to work with like 10 women one-to-one in the accumulation of wealth. I'm going to help them to set up a business online from scratch and make it a success. And I'm going to work with them for 3 months to accelerate their wealth and their business. And I'm going to call that the Women's Wealth Accelerator. And while I'm working with them, I'm going to find out what questions they ask me, where they get stuck, and it's going to become a group program, so I don't have to work one-to-one only, and I've got something even more valuable to offer them and even more material to offer them, and I can get better in the process. So I'll start off, cheap. And she was like, sounds amazing. Good for you. Do it. I said, but look, here's the thing. There's a few things that I need to make this a really big success fast, because there was no way that I was going to take my eye off the ball, even for a second, in what I'd created in network marketing, and potentially sacrifice any of that for something that wasn't going to be an astonishing success really quickly. Failure wasn't an option. This is the place you need to get yourself to. Failure's not an option. Whatever it takes, I'm all in, and I'm going hard, fast. I'm not playing small. I'm not going to just, build it bit by bit, like all in. Almost like, I listened to a seminar around this time, and there's this dude, and it's not for everybody what he said, but it hit me between the eyes. And he said, if the person you love the most in the world was stood on a building, and you're stood on this building, they're on that building, and there's a big drop beneath you, and there's a plank, and you've almost got to walk across the plank like a skyscraper, And he's just stood the other side going, come on, do it, do it, do it. It'll be a laugh. You ain't going to walk that plank because you could die, right? If the building is burning and the only way that you can get you and someone you love safely out of harm's way is for you to have the courage to walk that plank, would you do it? And the answer is yes. And this is the same as success. And so many people say, I can't. What if I fail? What, I'm not doing it. What if this? What if that? Oh, I can't because they set small goals. But if everybody you love's life was on the line, unless you absolutely smashed it, what kind of energy would you bring to it? And it hit me between the eyes and I was like, that's the energy I'm bringing. That's the energy I'm bringing. And I need help. I'm not ashamed to ask for help. I wouldn't have been where I was then with that seed bed to build upon if I hadn't have had help. So I need help now. And I said to this coach that I'd met with for dinner, I'd like your help. I think you might be the right person to help, but this is what I need. I need to know how to create an online course because I haven't got a Scooby-Doo. And I need to know how to sell it on automation because I know how to sell it, but everything that I know how to do up until this point is organic. And I need systems and funnels in place so it sells on automation without me having to do so much work because I'm still running a business over here that's quite demanding of my time. I wasn't just going to give that up. And I also need to up-level my knowledge on Facebook ads. And these are the 3 things that I wanted to learn from her. Another key lesson here is know what you need and what you want from a mentor. I know you don't know what you don't know, and sometimes you don't know what questions to ask to find out. And that's okay, I understand that. And sometimes you have to trust that that person knows enough to guide you, even when you don't know what you need. But have an idea, have an idea at least of what you need so you can choose wisely who you get that information from. And I knew that she could help me with that. I was certain of it because she'd done it. That's why I chose her. But when you choose people that have done it, had success, and actually walked the walk instead of just talking the talk, it costs you. And I was prepared for that. I knew that. It cost me £20,000 to work one-to-one with this woman. And when I say one-to-one, it was probably the equivalent of like about 10 one-to-one sessions I think I had total with her, something like that. Some messages in between as well if I got stuck. It was worth its weight in gold. There's some things I learned from that relationship that I thought I wouldn't do. But that's from every relationship. You don't just learn from the things that go well, you learn from the things that you think that they could do better as well. And I was looking at that stuff too. I won't lie. I won't say it was all roses and everything, because there was parts of that relationship that really challenged me. There's parts of that relationship that I could have allowed to be the reason that I didn't move so quickly, because sometimes I think she was going through some stuff and sometimes she didn't turn up. And sometimes we'd have a scheduled session and she wasn't there. And sometimes she'd say, I'll send you this, that and the other, and she just wouldn't send it. And there was frustrations. But I knew I could extract the value from that relationship because she'd achieved the things that I wanted to achieve. Therefore, the knowledge was there. I just needed to make sure I was extracting the value and not getting caught up in all the stuff that wasn't important. That 20 grand I did not take out of the 80 warrior line because it was a warrior line. I didn't have it. If she'd have said to me 20k up front, I'd have had to have said, okay, right, leave it with me for a bit. I'll have to work something out and I'll come back to you. But I could pay on instalments, so I could pay incrementally. So I had the first bit and I was like, right, let's go. And then every month I paid her more and more and more, and it was 20 grand and I moved fast. Now this was at the end of August. So it was around the end of August that this started. So I knew what I wanted to sell. I'd got to create it. I'd got to create this course from scratch. I'd got to create the brand. I had no website. I had no landing pages. I had nothing at all. So I had to, because these were the bits I wasn't sure on, had to learn that at the time and implement it. And then the other stuff that I knew how to do really well, like the use of social media to generate leads and selling on social media and all of that, include that in the strategy and get to work. This was at the end of August. 5 weeks from hitting go. And when I say hitting go, I mean from being in a position where I could sell. So I could go, bam, to the world, right, this is what I'm doing, and start putting it in front of the right people that I thought might need it and implementing a full-on lead generation strategy. in 5 weeks from launch. It was actually 5.5, so let's call it 6, just for the argument's sake of somebody going, oh no, it's actually 5 weeks and 3 days. It was just over 5 weeks. I'd made 60 grand, £60,000, and that consisted of, this is important, 10 one-to-one clients, because I made a decision that I was going to work one-to-one with 10 people. Hadn't got a course created for them. It was just, I literally had an A4 piece of paper. It was 1 to 12, the 12 steps, because there were 12 at the time, that I knew a brand newbie in business needed to take to get up, running and make money using social media marketing, like a social media business basically. It was like 12 steps. So on a one-to-one in 12 sessions, I helped them go through these 12 steps. No material, no nothing, just me and them. And they could message me in between. And I charged £3,000 for that back in the day. And I got 10 people to work with like that and got to work with them. Also in that 5 weeks, I sold 30 online courses, which was self-study. And this was the course that was all about money, so that people could just listen and learn, and they didn't need the one-to-one, because it was more about getting your finances in check, making sure when you're earning money you keep hold of it. It was knowing how to invest. It was like how to be savvy. Same ideal client, slightly different need. And that was the first 5 weeks, and I was like, holy shit, 60k in 5, that was a new level of success for me. Bearing in mind that I'd only just really mastered like six figures in a whole year. So to do that quick was like mind blowing. But it showed me the potential, and I was like, if I can do, and something I should mention here, and because I read the journal entry and I was really annoyed around this time. I was frustrated because Facebook ads, which was part of the thing that I wanted to master, because I was using Facebook ads for my previous business, but the strategy I was using for that business wasn't going to work over here, and I knew it wasn't. I knew we needed almost like a revamp of the way we did ads, and this is one of the things that I was going to be getting from working with the coach I was working with. So I was writing furiously in my journal around this time, getting it on paper rather than shouting at her, because she wasn't helping with it the way she'd said she was going to, and didn't seem to have any of the answers, and I was having to like find out from elsewhere, even though I was paying her. And oh my god, it was so frustrating. I hadn't got an ad live yet that had been converting, so I was just fucking around with Facebook ads. And any of you that know, when you're messing around with Facebook ads and you don't know what you're doing, it's so frustrating. And that's where I was at in the beginning. So this result, this first 5-6 week result, was without any ads. It was organic. I love organic lead generation. It's one of the things that I do best, if I don't say so myself, but I do. And the reason I love it is, and this is what I say to my clients now, is that master organic before you move on to ads. And this is the reason that I say it, because in the early days, when you're perfecting your messaging, I was still perfecting my messaging at this point. I was doing lots and lots of activity organically, but I was still perfecting my messaging. I was still getting used to what words to use and how to get the attention of my ideal client. And so you don't want to throw money at ads and pretty landing pages and funnels and all of that when you're still mastering your message, because you only have to undo it all again anyway. And you're pumping money in when you're less equipped to make it back. So you end up not getting the bang for your buck that you'll get when you've actually perfected some of these messaging and communication skills. So it was a blessing in disguise when I look back. Thank you to that experience. I'm not in any way, when I was reading the journal entries, I was actually smiling, because it happened exactly as it should have happened, because it prevented me from putting money into ads, which actually ended up saving me money, because it just made me work so much harder on the organic leads. So many people think they need a ton of money to spend on ads. One of the top questions I get asked when I'm in a discovery call with someone for the Women's Wealth Accelerator is, how much money am I going to have to spend on top of the money I pay you to teach me this stuff? And the answer is always nothing. If you want to spend extra on funnels and ads, when we get to the point where it will work for you because we've nailed your messaging, you absolutely can, but you don't need to. You know, up to these sorts of figures, we can be done organically. I actually haven't used ads as funnels for most of this year because we had a problem at the start of the year with ads. All of my leads, 99.9% of them as of 2020 come from organic, because we had a problem with our ad account. Long story, I'll fill you in another time. And it just meant that we just relied on organic, and we've never really gone back. They're a great tool, and I can vouch for that. They're very lucrative if you want to use them. But my point is, you don't have to. You don't have to be successful. So if you're thinking, oh, I need loads of money for ads, you don't. You absolutely don't. So some key lessons before I tell you something I'm nervous about sharing next week, but what I'm going to share. So some key lessons is work one-to-one before you attempt one-to-many. So many people are eager to leverage and start a group or start, and I understand that because it means you can leverage your time, but there's no point in leveraging your time if you compromise your service. Every time we've expanded our ability to help people through group mentorship, we've expanded the value that we add. It was just me in the beginning and a piece of A4 paper. Now there's an entire program that's proven, tested, with a mindset coach and a marketing coach and a tech team and a spiritual coach now. So that all these places we've seen people get stuck, we've plugged the gap with more help. So as your offer becomes a one-to-many offer, it should be more valuable. It shouldn't be less valuable. It shouldn't be compromised on service or end results. And the only way you can really achieve that is by doing the work with your one-to-one clients first and understanding them. But there should be an end date on that, where you transition into one-to-many quite quickly. So your business plan should account for that. Know your next move and have your business plan mapped out. Don't just start one-to-one without knowing what next. How will my business structure change from one-to-one? Because otherwise you're going to get stuck really quickly. Because if you manage to get enough clients to max you out, where's the time going to come from for you to re-strategize, restructure and go to the next level if you're busy working one-to-one? And people get stuck in that glass ceiling. It's hazardous. You've got to know at what point do I need to move out of one-to-one and into something else, and what is that something else? And your business plan needs to support that. One of the first things we do in WAM is business plan, because it's the first thing you need. Otherwise you're just building something and not really knowing what it's gonna give you at the end of it. And the last thing that I want to draw your attention to is that you have something really, really valuable to share with the world. Whether you believe me or not, you do. That was the big thing that I learned here from that sit down with the coach, was that what I thought was obvious when I was telling her, like, this is what I've learned, these have been the biggest things, and I think other people might get something from it. Her reaction was like, you think some people might get something from it? You've learned a lot over the last, however long it was then, 6-7 years that you've been studying this stuff and implementing this stuff and creating this six-figure business. Do you realise how much value? And I didn't, because it felt obvious to me then. And what feels obvious to you is probably somebody else's treasure too. So never write off the things that you know as not being valuable because they feel obvious to you. Because I promise you that your obvious is somebody else's treasure. And it's normally the biggest clue to the thing that you should be sharing and teaching, because it feels so obvious. It's your zone of genius, and that's why. So next week, I'm going to be talking to you about how I created a simple strategy that hit 7 figures in the first year. And then shortly after, I hit rock bottom. And that's the truth. It wasn't long after the 1 million mark that I had my biggest meltdown. Influenced by people problems that I'm going to share with you. And like I said at the beginning of the video, it's not with the intention of showing anybody up. I would never mention names. I would never indicate who these people might be. If you know, you know. Like, I can't do anything about that. But this is done with the intention of helping other people. So, you know, I'd ask you that if you think I might be talking about someone, or you think, you know, just, that's not what this is about. You don't need to guess. You don't need to wonder, who is it? It doesn't matter. It's not relevant. What's relevant is the lesson that's in it. I'm over these things and hold and harbour no animosity towards anybody that is part of this story. And it has been a battle of how much do I share, how much do I not, because is it wrong or is it right? But I have to give to you throughout this series. And I can't do that if I'm holding back. But the intention is to serve you. It's not to put someone else down. So know that when I move into next week, I'm going to be sharing some tough tough situations and lessons. One-to-one. Could you be one of the 5 women that I work one-to-one with every year? That's the question. I'm going to talk to you about WAM at the end of this video. I'm talking to you about one-to-one. Because every year I work with 5 women, because one-to-one's super intense. It's very different to WAM. WAM's intense. Very intense. One-to-one is on a different level. It requires you to already have a foundation in place. So you might want to be a little bit further ahead than just starting out and just feeling your feet. You want a decent foundation in business, but ready to smack 2021 around the face quick. Because we go into January and I want to have the 5 women in place in the first quarter. So by the end of the year, you guys are the success stories of 2021. We work close, like shoulder to shoulder close. We talk every day. It's a very intimate relationship. It's for fast pace. It's for people that are going from adolescent business to adult. WAM helps you go from baby to adolescent. So it means from the ground to around 10k a month consistent, maybe 20k a month, multiple 6 figures comfortably. That's what it's designed for. One-to-one is designed for going from adolescent, that 6-figure mark, to 7 figures quick. It's for people that already got that 6-figure base. And that's what I'm focusing on next year. So if you listen to this and you're like, I have that 6-figure base and next year is my million year, then we probably need to talk to get something set up for the first quarter. And I will see you next week. I'm a bit nervous about next week, not going to lie. Thanks for listening, guys. Lots of love.